Hey, everybody, it's Jordan with everythingcatholic.com. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I've got a really special guest I'm super excited to talk to, Jonathan Conrad, who is the force behind the Catholic Woodworker, a brand that I've been a fan of for a long time. And this is the first time we've talked, so I'm really excited to dive in and get to know Jonathan a bit and share a little bit about his story with you. Jonathan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for the invite, Jordan. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start off just talking a little bit about how the Catholic Woodworker came to be. What was the inspiration behind it, and where did it come from, and where is it now?
So the inspiration, kind of a combination of this passion for woodworking, this gift of creativity, that was passed on to me through my mom and relatives, and then this uh, desire to grow in my faith. Around the time when we had our younger two, they're twins. They were born, life gets a little bit busier, work is stressful, and there was just kind of this realization that I needed to take this faith thing seriously that I had been given as a child, more than just going to mass on Sunday. And so from that, came kind of combining those things together of, okay, I do this woodworking thing, but it's just kind of this thing I do on the side, and
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily properly ordered, meaning that it took me away from my family. It was kind of like an addiction versus this rightly ordered hobby. And so I took some time off from woodworking. This was back in 2014, and said, okay, if I'm going to go back to doing this woodworking thing, I really need to make sure that it's ordered towards the good of my vocation as a husband and father. So that's where it started,
Yeah.
is trying to apply my faith to this hobby of woodworking. And that led to me making some crucifixes for our house and me fixing a broken rosary that I loved that my wife had given me.
Yeah.
And I already had an Instagram account, so I started sharing that, and things kind of grew from there. And then I think it was 2000, the timeline's fuzzy, 2017 or something like that,
Sure.
where it went from just this social media account to really honing in on the rosary specifically.
Hmm.
So we started making these rosaries. I really wanted to be one of the champions of the rosary. I was very inspired by Father Calloway's book, Champions of the Rosary.
Yeah.
After reading that book, I was like, this is the way for evangelization, which is just spread devotion to the rosary and let Mary take care of the rest.
Sure.
And it's just continued to snowball from there.
Yeah, that's super cool. And we'll spend some time a little bit later in the conversation actually looking at and talking about some of the products of yours that we carry on everythingcatholic.com. But I think my first introduction to your brand and the work that you do was through some of those photos of the rosary that you've taken. And just so beautiful, really striking. The lighting on those pictures is amazing. And it just makes you want to hold one of those and use
Mhm.
it and grow in your devotion to Mary, to Jesus through the rosary, but also really appreciate the craft that went behind it too. They're just beautiful pieces. And I think we've all come across rosaries that, are a bit lackluster in the way that they look or feel. And yours are at the other end of the spectrum. They're so amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, it is May and the church celebrates Mary in a special way during this month. So I thought I'd ask you a little bit about Marian Devotion. I'm guessing you're probably going to say your favorite is the Rosary, but I'd just love to hear a little bit about what are your go-to Marian devotions.
So yes, the rosary is where it started. I spent a good bit of time reading the stories of Mary's life through the mystical city of God. It's a extensive book series, which is um, something that kind of animated and expounded on. You take three sentences from the Bible, like, and
Right.
they went to Egypt and stayed there, and then they came back, and it's like that's like three or four chapters in the book.
Oh, cool.
Um, and so that book helped me, I guess, kind of put myself in Mary's shoes and put myself in Joseph's shoes and Christ's shoes. because Mary always kind of leads us to Jesus anyways.
Right.
Um, so that played a big part. So the Rosary, mystical city of God,
Mhm.
consecration to Mary through St. Louis de Montfort's work
Right.
was also really, really helpful. I think the most practical thing that I can share is I love to journal, and a part of it's just because it's hard to focus when I'm just like thinking in my head or praying in my head. I get distracted. But if I'm journaling, if I'm writing it out, it helps me stay focused on it.
Sure.
And so I spent a lot of time, going to adoration, and kind of writing out my prayers. And especially early on, a lot of those were directed at Mary because it's like I had this relationship with Mary before I really knew Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I don't know if you put that in the category of a devotion, but that was really, really helpful for me, to just talk to Mary as a person, as a mother,
Mhm.
and for my sake, it was helpful to write that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I too, especially in adoration, enjoy bringing a journal to just write things down, and
Yeah,
it's really interesting to read back on that later and kind of see how
it
God's
is.
directing your life in different ways. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, I've been reading a little bit this month, in particular because of it being a special month for Mary. Just about what the church teaches about Mary, what we believe as Catholics about Mary. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there among people of other faiths or even other Christians about, Catholics worship Mary and things like that. And one of the things I read recently I thought was really cool, just kind of struck me in a different way, was this idea that there is no better example of what a Christian is and should be and how they should live their life than Mary. She is the perfect Christian, and so that's why we look at her as this example. Someone, and I can't remember if it was a saint or if it was just a contemporary theologian, had talked about her as almost being like the moon that reflects the light of the sun, and I thought that was a really interesting way of thinking about it.
it is, and I think it's a good way. And I would, um, when we look at, if we, let's say we take a friend of ours who has some skepticism or concern, um, about, you know, worshiping Mary, or being kind of afraid of any of these things might fall in that category, and that's a bad thing.
Hmm.
Of trying to look at it from a really human perspective of
Right.
just like looking at Mary as at the very least a the best example
Hmm.
of not God, a human, right? So it's
Right.
like, was there a better human? I
Yeah.
think even if you aren't sure about whether Mary was sinless or not, right? Maybe you can't agree on that, but it's like you can probably agree that Jesus's mom, Mary, was pretty excellent. And there's a lot of great examples that you can kind of draw from her life that's
Yeah.
reflected in the Bible.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that's a good soft approach, to encouraging somebody who has that concern or skepticism of, taking that first step of saying, it was a good example for us of how to live the Christian life well and how to love Jesus.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Let's talk a little bit about the rosary in particular. So you mentioned that, as Catholic Woodworker has morphed and changed over the years, you've really kind of honed in on the rosary, and you have lots of them on your website for sale. Do you have a particular one that's your favorite?
Ah, I don't.
Yeah,
Every every I don't know, it seems like every 3 to 6 months I end up kind of just feeling inspired and I come up with a design.
sure.
And so like right now I have sitting on my desk, a design that I made.
Yeah.
We just got some new St. Joseph Cherub Demon centerpieces in.
Hmm.
So I would say, first of all, the St. Joseph Cherub Demon centerpiece, just as a piece itself, is definitely my favorite centerpiece.
Right.
Um, I, it's one of the reasons why we started making our own pieces.
Uh-huh.
Right. So the Catholic Woodworker, we buy some parts from Italy,
Sure.
but our premium rosaries, the centerpieces and some of the crucifixes are our exclusive designs that we've kind of created from scratch. And one of the reasons why we did that was because, there's this beauty in art, that can be portrayed in a crucifix and in a rosary centerpiece, but it's really difficult to do when it's that small.
Right.
Um, and so I just kind of, I don't know if it's the perfectionist in me, but it's like I just found that to be something that was lacking, where it's like I
Sure.
can't really see Mary, I can't really see Saint Joseph in this piece.
Hmm.
And so that's why we set out to kind of create our own designs that are more high resolution, really, that
Right.
cast better, where that detail is retained. So those are my kind of favorite pieces.
Yeah.
Are are the custom pieces we've come up with that really have that detail,
Hmm.
um, because it allows me to kind of look at it as a piece of artwork
Right.
that inspires me more so than just something that if I look really closely, maybe it looks like, or it's like, I know it's St. Joseph because it says St. Joseph, but I
Sure.
can't really see any of the details.
Yeah.
Um, so the Terror of Demons is probably my favorite. But I like I said, I find myself every 3 to 6 months, just coming up with a new design, and that
Sure.
rosary then eventually gets gifted to a friend
Yeah.
or a relative who needs one in the moment.
Yeah. That's cool. And I think that's when art inspires prayer, and it's no accident that some of the best art in the world, whether it's visual or music, comes from the church. And I feel the same way when I have a particularly beautiful rosary. It makes me want to pray more often and use that rosary, and as opposed to it just sitting there.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Um, Okay, so a couple other things here about May and Mary's month, and I think you might have touched on this a little bit already with your story of kind of this relationship with Mary first, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything additional that you'd want to just talk about regards to Mary and why she's special to you, and that personal relationship. I think a lot of Catholics have a relationship with Mary, or at least revere her in some way. But something that's a bit more personal is a little bit out of the ordinary. So I'd love to hear anything else you want to say about that.
Um, I think a couple of memories come to mind. So the first one would be that I started praying the rosary daily that many years ago. So this would have been like
Right.
nine, almost 10 years ago. And it's because it was the prayer that I was taught growing up that I remembered. Um, and so I wish I could say I set out intentionally to have a relationship with Mary. I
Sure.
didn't. I had this prayer that my parents taught me, and I knew that I needed God in my life. And it's
Mhm.
like, this is the only way that I know right now to try and connect with him. So I started the rosary daily. And I remember even like specifically choosing to start praying the rosary and then go back mentally to work.
Right.
Like, 'cause this was on my way to work, right? So as I made a conscious choice not to even try to meditate, probably because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to.
Sure.
He said, I'm going to say these prayers while I'm thinking about work, because that's better than just thinking about work.
Right.
And slowly but surely things started to change, and not like my life external factors started to change, or like I started to change. My heart grew, and I had this greater desire for prayer and relationship with God.
Hmm.
And I don't think um I want to say that it wasn't until I read Champions of the Rosary that I fully appreciated the role that Mary and the Rosary played in me getting to that place.
Right.
And so it was more like a thing that I came to realize later
That's
after
interesting.
several years of praying the Rosary that,
Sure.
oh wow, Mary is the one that brought me to Jesus,
Right.
because it's like I started praying the Rosary daily. Then I started praying the Rosary daily and reading some books like
Uh,
Introduction to the Devout Life or Divine Intimacy and Spiritual Warfare and other things like that. And then we moved in 2016,
mhm.
and we were 3 minutes away from an adoration chapel. And I started going to adoration every day.
Oh, great.
And this is when I started reading The Mystical City of God in adoration and journaling, um, and kind of having those conversations and writing with Mary.
Right.
And then I noticed that, hey, while I'm at adoration every single day, there's a 6:30 mass going on
Hmm.
where Jesus is, I get to receive Jesus.
Right.
And so it led me from the rosary to spiritual writings to scripture to more prayer to adoration to the mass.
Yeah.
And then I think that's about the time that I read Champions of the Rosary, and it was like everything kind of came full circle. It's like,
Wow.
oh, it was Mary that introduced me to her son Jesus in the Eucharist at adoration, and more specifically in the Mass.
Sure.
But I didn't set out to do that. I didn't set
Mhm.
out to intentionally, I'm going to have this relationship with Mary, because I knew, I didn't know. I just knew this prayer of the Rosary, and it's like it kind of took care of the rest.
Yeah. And then you were able to kind of see it, look back and
Yeah,
understand what was all happening behind the
right.
scenes. You didn't even know it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why I am such an advocate of, if you're not sure, just invite somebody to join you in the Rosary.
Hmm.
And what I mean by if you're not sure, as in like if you're trying to love someone well, and they're struggling and you're not sure what to do for them,
Sure.
pray the Rosary for them. And if you see if you see a legitimate opportunity, invite them to join you in that as well.
Right.
Because at least in my experience, it's like my lived experience has been that through the power of the Rosary, Mary can do a lot,
Right.
with that willingness to cooperate with grace.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. You just got to be open to it.
Mhm.
That's great. Let's talk about some of the products that we have on everythingcatholic.com that are made by you and your team. Let's start with rosaries, since that's what we have been talking about. I've got three here that I want to pull out, and they come in these handy little canvas cinch bags. Um, First one, I believe, is the St. Michael Rosary.
Yep.
Yeah, do you want to tell me a little bit about this one, and I guess why St. Michael, in the Rosary of Marian prayer? So maybe tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a little bit of, I think there's something special about Saint Michael for men, and I don't want to say it's not special for women. But it's
Sure.
like I'm not a woman. I'm a man. I There's something powerful about Saint Michael fighting the devil.
Right.
Right? There's something about it that gives me courage, that inspires me, that gives me a felt sense of safety.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think the idea of Saint Michael really resonates with men, and it certainly does with me. So it's not surprising that, generally speaking, if you put all of our rosary designs together, Saint Michael, whether it's that one or the classic one or the Defender one, we've got three versions,
Yeah.
is combined. Saint Michael is more popular than Mary.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think it's because Mary is actually less popular. I think it's
Sure.
like we know that it's the rosary,
Yeah.
right? And there's just this added bonus of Saint Michael being featured on that rosary.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
And this is a very masculine feeling rosary too, so that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and we've paired it with what we call our full armor crucifix,
Yeah.
and we really try to offer rosary options at different price points, where it's
Mm.
like not everyone can afford $100 rosary.
Sure.
And so we want to be able to offer the same quality, um, but at different price points. So that one, is one of our more affordable ones,
Sure.
and partner with a company for manufacturing these ethically in Brazil,
Okay.
that helps us provide cost-effective rosaries that still meet our rigorous standards, because
Right.
there are certain things that I just can't handle in a rosary, and that's them falling apart,
Yeah.
um, where knots slip, and then there's this huge chunk of extra cord, and
Right.
beads are like sliding all the way down the rosary like an abacus.
Yeah.
Like, these are all things that distract us from prayer, and so we've worked with them closely on making it kind of our way,
Yeah.
um, and so that's the Saint Michael design.
Yeah. Beautiful. I don't know if we'll be able to get a close up with the camera, but you can see St. Michael's image there on the centerpiece with his sword. It's really striking. Anything significant about the black beads and the red Our Father beads?
I feel like St. Michael's, I feel like red is kind of, if like he had a color, it would be red.
Sure.
And it's like if Saint Joseph had a color, it like feels like it's green. Now, obviously, the
Yeah,
Sacred Heart, and red is also synonymous with Jesus.
sure.
Um, but we've kind of, yeah, red has always kind of seemed to go along with Saint Michael, and so
Mhm.
we try and that color is usually synonymous with his designs.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think I recognize barrel knots on these. I've tied some of those myself, and those are very handsome knots, very clean and
Yeah,
sturdy as well.
yeah,
No, that's awesome. We have another one that's similar to that. It's a miraculous metal rosary. I believe it's also the full armor design. Um, we've got that one here, which has blue beads, and then a
yep.
miraculous metal here in the middle.
Yeah, so the same thing here, right? It's like we have three full armor designs. We've got Michael's armor, Mary's armor, which is that one, and then Joseph's armor,
Yeah,
specifically on everything Catholic, those two in particular. Um, and and so same thing here. It's like Mary, right? The color that we think of when we think of Mary is blue.
sure.
Those beads in particular are just a beautiful color.
I like these a lot. Yeah, it's
But they're
darker.
masculine in that it's
Yeah,
a rich dark blue.
yeah,
And so we really just thought that was a perfect pairing with a miraculous metal centerpiece and the full armor crucifix.
yeah,
And again, that's with partnering with them has given us an opportunity to bring those to you guys at a really affordable price point.
right. Yeah, this one is very nice. The third rosary I want to show is actually one that we carry on Everything Catholic, but was a collaboration with you and the Catholic Gentleman. And this one is really beautiful. And this would be one of the more premium rosaries, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
um, that has a bronze crucifix and then a custom designed centerpiece with St. Joseph.
yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this one a little bit.
This is probably, I would say it's actually my favorite.
Yeah,
Um, uh, and it's my favorite for a couple of reasons. One is was a really fun collaboration project with the Catholic Gentleman.
yeah,
Two is we commissioned the artwork both on the front and the back. So on the front you have Saint Joseph
right. He's at
in
his
the
workbench.
workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the workbench. He's got a chisel and a hammer in his hand.
Mhm.
Carving a piece of wood. On the back you have the three hearts of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Right.
And there's just something really powerful about the imagery and the correlation of those two things of Saint Joseph as the worker, Saint Joseph as foster father, as husband, and the three hearts of the Holy Family. It's like his work is protecting it and or just sanctifying it.
Mhm.
And so it really, I mean, we spent, I think it took us about a year from start to finish to go from pencil sketches from an artist to, and this is where you get into, it's like, why are some of these rosaries so expensive?
Sure.
We do artwork, then it goes to a modeling company where they create a 3D model, a 3D rendering of it.
Right.
Then it gets 3D printed. Then a mold is made out of it, and then it's called like lost wax casting,
Mhm.
where it's converted into a piece of wax that gets molded and cast into bronze. And so it's not like bronze color, right? We There's
Right.
not a lot of color in our products. Most of our products are natural materials,
Right.
where it's like if it looks bronze, it's because it is bronze.
Yeah.
And so those are genuine bronze pieces. And if you swing the crucifix and hit it the centerpiece, it's going to ding.
Yeah.
And that's a distinct
Yeah.
sound that bronze makes. And so we put a lot of attention, a lot of effort and detail into the centerpiece. The same
Mhm.
thing with the crucifix. It's an original crucifix design, and we have larger versions of that you can get out of wood.
Right.
Um, and so that that's some of the kind of the highlights. And then the Our Father beads are larger 10 millimeter,
Mm.
this naturally dark wood bead that comes from the Philippines, and it really just rounds out the design,
Right.
and is really durable and elegant. And these are the ones that we make in the US.
Yeah.
where we purchase materials, the metals are made in the U.S., all
Yep.
the assembly is done here, and then we package it up.
Yeah. Yeah, these are fantastic. Just holding the 3 in my hand, this one has a different weight to it than the other 2, and I think a lot of
Yeah,
that comes from the bronze.
right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I particularly love the bronze look as opposed to, even like sterling silver, which is gonna cost more. The bronze just is something that I really enjoy, that warm tone, and it feels very masculine.
Yeah,
We also have a pocket rosary version of this on everythingcatholic.com that's
yeah.
just a one decader, but it retains a lot of the same look as this full rosary does. It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
I do want to tell you this. This just popped in my head, but this is I think this will be something that you'll enjoy as the maker of this. My father-in-law was diagnosed with brain cancer last September, and he passed away in January. And he was holding the pocket rosary in his hand when he passed away.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's a beautiful memory to be able to hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that rosary is very cherished in the family, as you can imagine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Last product, last two to pull out here. We've got a home altar. Um, Tell us about this because this is something that I think a lot of Catholic households are going to have rosaries, but not everybody's going to have a home altar. So talk about this for a little bit. Why have a home altar?
Yeah,
What's it used for? That sort of thing.
yeah. So the origin is, to try and succinctly kind of come back with that history. It came out of I was traveling for work a lot at the time. This was, yeah, 6, 7 years ago. And, I had established this great prayer routine at home, but then when I would go travel, I would just kind of like revert back to my old ways.
Sure.
Um, and it's like I wanted to bring God with me when I traveled, where it's like I want to be Catholic all the time, not just when I'm at home.
Right.
And so I had this one particular week long trip where I had kind of been inspired by a friend to kind of create this something unique and special.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up happening was I built this box and I made this like standing crucifix that I could bring with me. I
Mm-hmm.
had prayer cards and this crucifix that stood on its own, and holy water, and my rosary, and it all fit in this nice little box. And so I brought it with me, and it was like I was like packing heat. Like I
Yeah.
knew I felt this great confidence and peace that this was going to be the new way that I was going to travel, where I was going to bring my prayer life with me, and God was going to be with me instead of just leaving everything at home,
Sure.
metaphorically speaking. And so from that came these home altars, which are, we call them a home altar. It's really about making physical space for God
Mm-hmm.
so that you make time for Him. Because it's like we have a place to eat, we have a place to sleep, we have a place to park cars and watch TV and relax on a patio. It's like, well, if we don't have space in our home for God,
Mm-hmm.
there's a good chance that we're going to have a hard time making time for Him.
Right.
It's like if I can't carve out space for Him in my physical world, I'm going to have a harder time carving out space for Him in my calendar.
Sure.
And so the home altar is really just that physical reminder of some commitment that you've made to prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And it can, like, I've got one sitting on my desk right now, right here,
Oh, nice.
and it's just sitting here always with me. And I've got, a little Mary statue right here where I do my, journaling
Yeah.
in my office. And, all of these things are making space for a certain kind of prayer and a certain kind of way that can be built into your life routine. And it's like every time I sit in that chair, I see that statue or I see that home altar, and it's a reminder of some commitment that I've made to myself and God to enter into relationship with Him.
Yeah.
And so we've got these different versions of them that, all of them come in a durable construction box that allows you to pack
Mm-hmm.
it up and bring it with you wherever
Right.
you go.
Yeah,
You
I've
don't
got this
have
right
to,
here.
but it's easy to bring it with you.
Right. Yeah. Just
Yep.
kind of collapses in there, and you can bring it with you. Yeah, that's great. This particular product of the different ones that we have on everythingcatholic.com, we can't keep this one in stock, as you know, because we're always sending you emails. We're like, "Hey, we need more of these." But
Yeah.
people love this. I think that
Yeah.
they love that idea of having a space dedicated to prayer in the home.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. We also, just to mention, this crucifix by itself is also something that we have on the store, and this is a popular item as well. Just a beautiful desk crucifix that can go with or without the home altar. So
Yep.
very nice. Has a Benedictine medal on the back and on the front there too. So really good stuff. Well, cool, Jonathan. Before we wrap up, if I can, I want to do some rapid fire woodworking questions
Okay.
because similar to you, my grandfather is a master carpenter. He would call it master woodworker. I did some construction in college and have enjoyed doing some woodworking over the years and have grown a collection of tools. I have a lot of hardwood remnants here and there in the garage and in the warehouse. So I'm just going to go through a few things, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So, what's your favorite power tool?
Uh, I mean, it's the table saw,
Yeah,
just because it's probably it was actually the first power tool, other than like a cordless drill, that I
sure.
really learned how to use, and there, it has tremendous versatility. Obviously, it's very dangerous. I have
Yeah.
cut myself on the blade.
Oh
Thankfully, it
no.
was not catastrophic. I've done that a couple of times, so it's like
Sure.
I say that with like, please be careful.
Yes.
But it's a really powerful and versatile tool,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of things possible.
That's awesome. What about hand tools? Do you have a favorite hand tool?
Uh, my favorite one is the router plane.
Ah, nice.
Um, I don't use it as much as I use other hand tools, but I think
Sure.
it's the most I don't know, ingenious. It's really satisfying to use.
Yeah.
I primarily use it when I'm making crucifixes for friends and family.
Sure.
Like there's certain things that I like we make and sell on the website, and then there's certain things that I just kind of make on my own.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to make some crucifixes, the it's just two pieces of wood that go together like this, and
Mhm.
which means that they need to be offset so that they line up together.
Right.
So you have this kind of cutout that you have to make, and it's easy to cut one side, cut the other side, and then carve out the center
Right.
with the router plane. And
Yeah.
it's just a blade that runs like this, and it sits below the surface, the surface, so it's just carving out that channel so that the two pieces connect and are flat together. And
Yeah.
so it's really satisfying to use, and it was a gift my wife gave me, that I love and cherish.
That's cool. Yeah. Hand tools can be a deep dark hole that never ends.
Yeah.
There's so many little things that you can use for very specialized tasks. And my brother is way more advanced of a woodworker than I am, and he has got a bazillion planes. I think the block plane is my favorite. Uh,
Okay.
I never get over just the satisfaction of that curly shaving that just comes off and how smooth it makes it, and it's a lot of fun to
I
have that touch.
It really is. I do remember it took me probably 6 months to figure out how to really get a sharp edge
Yeah.
on a cutting tool, which is what a plane is. And it's like that first time when I finally had a really sharp edge where it just cut like butter and just
Yeah.
created this thin uh layer, shaving that it felt effortless.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably about that time that I kind of got hooked on hand tools.
Yeah.
Or like it's going to be, if I'm not making something for production, I'm always going to prefer to use hand tools over power tools. They're not as loud.
Yeah.
Um, they're generally safer. Um, and instead of producing sawdust, it produces wood shavings, which
Yeah.
are super fun.
Yeah. That's true.
It's
Yeah. I
a
used to
great
keep
workout to just keep planing a board
it
until your
is.
arms are just wasted.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, I used to keep a bag of different shavings from different species, and it's
Yeah,
way easier to clean up than sawdust, which just gets everywhere. So
yeah.
you're right about that. Do you have a favorite species of wood that you prefer to work with?
My walnut is my favorite, and then I love Paduke as an
Okay, yeah.
accent, which when you put an oil finish on Paduke, it's this dark red.
Yeah,
So those are definitely my two favorite. Um, and it's evident in our premium wood products are all made out of walnut.
right.
And people ask us like, what stain is that? And it's like it's not a stain.
Yeah.
Walnut is just this beautiful dark wood.
Yep.
It's this naturally dark color, and it's obviously the heartwood of a walnut tree,
Hmm.
and it's really fun to be able to work with it because it's straight grained. It's not too dense, where it's generally easy to work with.
Yep.
And when you apply that first coat of oil or wax coat, it just pops and comes to life, and
Yeah.
it's really spectacular.
That's got to be the best part about working with hardwoods in particular is when you get to put the oil on at the end and it just totally pops. And especially if you have a little bit of figuring in your wood, it just blows your mind sometimes with how
Mhm.
beautiful it is.
It really is.
That's super cool. Um, okay, cool. Hey, last thing, pop quiz. I'm going to put you on the spot. I grabbed 6 pieces of hardwood from my warehouse, and I just want to
Okay.
put it in front of you, see if you can guess what they are.
Ooh, this will be fun. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll start with a fairly easy one here.
So that's walnut.
Yep, this is walnut, and I want to mention this too. One of the coolest things I think, like obviously you want to wear proper protection for respiration and things when you're working with wood, especially if you're using power tools and there's a lot of sawdust. But the smell of walnut has
Mm,
got to be one of the best when you cut into that. It's so nice.
yeah.
All right, let's see. What about this piece right here?
I need you to rotate it. Um, it looks like hard maple. There's some
Yep,
curl in it. Okay.
yep. Yeah, it's yeah, I think it might be curly. It's got some
I
figures.
can see the waves in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is maple. So yep, perfect. All right, let's try this one here. And I'll rotate this one too.
Um, I want to say I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's like sapele or yeah, it's like
Yeah,
Sapele or something like that.
that's exactly right. So I'll be honest, I don't know if it's sapele or if it's ribbon stripe mahogany. It feels heavy for mahogany, so I think it's probably sapele. But yeah,
Okay.
very beautiful. That one really pops when you put some
Yeah.
oil on it. All right, here's one.
Uh, Man, I want to say it's like, people say things like, if you think it's a zebra, it's probably a horse. I want to say zebra wood.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. That's what it is.
okay.
Yep, yep.
Because it could just be like spalted maple.
Right, yeah, it could. Yeah, this one's zebra wood, that's a fun one. All right, how about this one right here?
Cherry.
Yep, I think this is Carolina cherry, it's a bit
Okay.
redder,
Okay.
um, but yeah, you're exactly right. And then the last one, this one might be a little tough, but maybe not.
I'm going to say hickory.
Nope, this one technically. So I don't know if this one is a hardwood or a softwood. This is Andrew
Cedar.
Hart pine.
Pine. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it came from a mill that so this is like a almost 1,000-year-old piece of wood. This came from an old mill.
That's why I've never seen pine
Yeah,
that old.
it's
Normally, when
got
you
some,
get it at the hardware store,
nail holes in the side too. So yeah, this is cool. It's very tight grain, which is unusual for pine.
right? That's what threw me off.
Yeah, yeah. This is a fun one to work with too. Cool. Well, awesome, man. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you entertaining some of those last questions.
Yeah.
It's neat to learn about your story, and we're very thankful for the products that you make and your presence here in the church and all that you're doing. So very much. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks, Jordan, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, awesome. Have a great one.
All right. God bless.
All right, everybody else, thank you so much. We appreciate you tuning in. And if you haven't, go ahead and click or tap that subscribe button so that you can catch all the videos that we have coming up. We've got awesome interviews with folks like Jonathan in the works as we move through the rest of the year. And thanks a bunch, and we'll see you soon.